Thanks, Tom. My guests today are Mike Libutti, the Senior Partner and Vice President and Defense Industry Leader at IBM, and Trista Colbert, the Senior Partner and Vice President for Hybrid Cloud Services for the Federal Sector at IBM. Mike, Trista, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having us.
We're continuing our conversation today about cloud, right? DoD Cloud Exchange. There's a lot to talk about, but we're going to start with maybe the hybrid cloud discussion because I think that's a key piece here. As DoD, and it's really every agency is moving toward this hybrid cloud setup, what is the success factors look like? How do you be successful in hybrid cloud? It sounds like such a simple question, but I think a lot of agencies are getting to that point where they have to figure this out. Mike, you want to give us a start?
Yeah, happy to, Jason. So I think first it's important to recognize how critical it is to understand this hybrid cloud landscape and the fact that we're here now, we're going to be here for the foreseeable future. We're in a situation where we've got workloads that are going to exist in commercial clouds across multiple cloud providers, across multiple accreditation levels. We're going to be in a situation where we've got workloads that will sit on-prem because of compliance requirements or certain hardware configurations that are required. We're going to be in a situation where we have SaaS offerings that are going to sit in their own accredited clouds. And then finally, we're going to be in a situation where we've got compute out at the tactical edge. So understanding how diverse that hosting landscape is and recognizing the value we can get from it is really critical to us, driving forward and understanding how we're going to approach it. I would just say that from a success perspective, there are some key aspects of, creating a technical framework or approach and some key capabilities that are really essential to driving that success. I'd maybe touch on two, if we could take a moment on it. The first of which I'd say is containers, right? So containers, have certainly increased rampantly in the development space across the past couple of years. And I'd say, there are some key attributes, some key benefits that you're deriving from the use of containers as we see, within client organizations that we work with. First is the creation of portability and flexibility of workloads that you can move across multiple clouds and on-prem. And I think that's an important piece because a lot of offerings today are looking to spin up containers within a particular cloud. But the reality is, again, we're going to live in this hybrid landscape. So you're really going to need containerization capability that's going to sit across the entirety of the entire ecosystem, right? The next, I think, important point about containers is that it's really easing the modernization of applications. So when an organization looks at containers, containerizing legacy applications is allowing you to move it more easily to the cloud. It's allowing you to take a microservices approach as opposed to sort of this monolithic application approach that you've taken in the past. And it really will set you up for the future modernization aspects, refactoring, et cetera, of those particular applications. And then finally, I'd say, in certain cases, especially in the Department of Defense, where you're able to rely on hardened containers that have already been through security accreditation, I think you've got a key element on your path towards getting accreditation for your application, and so you're able to use that as kind of a stepping stone. One other point I think worth bringing up is, from a capabilities perspective to really drive success in the hybrid cloud, I see what we'll call a cloud management platform, right? And I think that consists of a few key things. The first is an orchestration capability that allows you the opportunity to manage and deploy workloads across the entirety of the ecosystem, right? Because again, you've got such a diverse landscape, so many different places to put workloads. How do you get your arms around it, right? How do you have that single pane of glass point of view? The second piece is having the ability to sort of promote containerization as a service and deliver those containers on demand into whichever cloud or on-prem you need to meet the mission need. And then finally, a software factory, right? That's going to kind of tie all that together and really drive development capability to maximize the use of hybrid cloud, leveraging DevSecOps.
All right, Trista, I think he hit every buzzword. You did a nice job. I was like, took a ton of notes. But let me go back to one thing I think that's really important is when you talk about containers and the container as a service. I know DISA announced, I want to say maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago, about a container as a service pilot. Is that something that, Trista, you're starting to see agencies go, okay, this container thing is important. Okay, now how do we make it happen? And the service piece is really what they're starting to look at. What are you seeing around containers from that perspective?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. We are working with some of our defense clients and other government clients to do proof of technology engagements where we are leveraging, we're leaning into technologies like Red Hat OpenShift, right, as a containerization platform. Why? Because it really offers you that speed and flexibility to get to application builds and deployments that much more quickly. And then also on the operations side, right? I mean, within the platform, there are tools and techniques that can be employed that really help the operations teams, right, with the ongoing management of the environment. So yes, absolutely, we're hearing more asks specifically for our services, right? So from a services perspective, coming to the table with a platform as a service, right? Bundled with infrastructure as a service to really help our clients get onto that journey much more quickly.
And Jason, if I could just add to, because you brought up DISA. So given DISA's position in the department as an enterprise service provider, having that containerization as a service capability is such a unique way for them to provide value to the rest of DoD, because that is clearly something that the enterprise can benefit from. And if they can leverage that shared service model from DISA to be able to rely upon containers, getting containers, hardened containers from DISA to be able to deploy their applications, I think it's a critical step forward.
And the thing about containers that's really important is it doesn't matter where you're working, right? They can shift, as you said, Mike, from cloud to cloud or on-prem to cloud or some hybrid. Hey, look at that.
Hybrid cloud.
Some hybrid approach, because, and that's really why I think that's becoming more popular. And either Trista or Mike jump in and talk a little bit about that flexibility.
Sure, I'd love to take that, and then I believe that later in the conversation we can dig into it a little bit more. So in terms of the containerization or container platform as a service, we have a very exciting offering that we're out in the market with right now. We call it our IPS for Grow, but essentially it's an IBM platform as a service built on Red Hat OpenShift technology, where we really go into our clients, and it's a cloud agnostic platform as a service offering. So no matter which target cloud you've selected, right? So whether it's the Defense Department, other government clients, we bring that offering to the table, and it can be deployed into the cloud of your choice, right? So it's basically a capability that allows you to get very quickly to deploying your applications using container technology, and then get on with the build out and deployment processes that come after that, and then ultimately getting to a point where you're really comfortable managing those new applications or existing applications, enhanced applications, wherever it is that you're trying to tackle the problem. So yes, absolutely, and yes, we're quite excited to be able to partner with the Defense Department and others as well to really leverage this sort of capability.
One of the things about containerization and that kind of opens the door to that bigger push for DevSecOps, and a lot of agencies talk about DevSecOps. We know some are better than others. We know, for instance, whether it's the Air Force and their Cloud One, Platform One, or whether it's Army and their software factory. I think, Mike, you mentioned the piece of software factory. Why is the containerization piece so important to getting further into DevSecOps and really getting capabilities to the field more quickly?
The real power of employing that model has really been around being able to get your development team very closely aligned with the security team and the ops team much earlier in the whole solution delivery lifecycle. So that's sort of the why you want to be going after the DevSecOps model, and then sort of tying in the point around the containerization. DevSecOps as a model is an accelerator, right? So then if you believe in containerization as the path, a set of tools, a platform to help you with accelerating that build out, accelerating the deployment, it just makes good sense, right? That you're able to do that using that DevSecOps model within the team. So helping the team shift the culture, and then ultimately, you get to greater speed and flexibility with those solutions that you're delivering. So that's how I see the two tying together.
One of the things when you talk about the acceleration is, and comes with this idea of, okay, we can fail fast, we can fail quickly, we can understand what we're trying to get to, and it's a different approach to what are we really doing? Like, what's the end result? Well, I want to get this data to make this decision. Okay, how do we get there? Is that the conversations that you're starting to see DoD having when it comes to DevSecOps, containerization, and the like, where they're more about what's the end result versus the path to get there?
Yeah, I would say that that's absolutely the case. And in fact, there's such critical thinking going on now about how to take the existing processes and really adapt them, mold them to fit this sort of new way of working when you think about DevSecOps, right? So take security for an example, right? There's a lot of conversation now about how can the department move more towards a continuous authority to operate posture, as opposed to where we've been in the past, where we're assessing security sort of more towards the back end. It's a snapshot in time. We're going to do that every so often, right? But clearly, with the ever-evolving cyber threats, and now with this onset of DevSecOps, where we're deploying new capabilities frequently and potentially creating new vulnerabilities as a result, you're going to need to really look at that kind of shift left paradigm as DevSecOps is when you are baking security in up front, right? So you've got a situation now where you've got predefined gates, I'll say, right, where you're actually testing your security posture at those stages. And you mentioned data, so now you're really relying on the data from those tests and kind of plowing that back into the front end of the development process, right? So in turn, you're identifying these issues earlier, and then you're correcting them early, so that at the end of the day, you've got a more robust, more secure capability that you put into practice, right? Put into motion. So,
I'd love to add into that on the security piece of this conversation. Yes, absolutely. It's really a mandate that security be embedded in modernization, the whole modernization process, as early as possible. Another way that we like to think about it is in terms of the way that we help our clients develop solutions that are secure by design, right? So that's also something that we're talking about a lot more, and really sort of impressing upon our clients to look at ways and leveraging the DevSecOps model, right? Because we've seen countless instances of that really being a proven way to do this, right? So have a solution that's really designed to be secure, and you're doing that design up closer to the development work. So.
And it's about bringing in the users as well, because the users are going to point out something.
Absolutely.
Well, I do it this way. Oh, that's going to be a potential hole or a problem. I want to go back to something that Mike has also said. It was about the continuous ATO. We have two memos that came from DoD just recently, of the continuous ATO one and the software modernization one. So our timing, of course, we worked this out perfectly, by the way.
That's right.
We knew what they were going to do. So we had the DoD Cloud Exchange just about a month after those memos came out. What's this mean for agencies a little bit in terms of how it gives them kind of that hall pass, that go toward that continuous ATO? Not for everybody, not for everything, but do you get a sense? Is there, how much excitement is there? How much Trista, are you all getting the okay, get us there more quickly because of the memos? Mike or Trista, either one?
I mean, I'll just say yes in short for DoD clients. In fact, we're starting to see opportunities now. Speaking of moving fast, using the OTA construct, for example, right, which I know is becoming increasingly popular, but it's a great way to move more quickly in the acquisition process to really have that collaboration. But point being that we're starting to see security capabilities around automating this process, around continuous monitoring, around trying to get to that continuous ATO posture, as a result of these coming memos. And I really do think the department is leaning in, trying to embrace this, right? I mean, you mentioned the Air Force and Platform One, Cloud One prior. The Air Force really was a trailblazer when it came to advancing, this operating model, if you will, within the department. And there's so much to glean from that, right? And to the point where they've got, containers that they've hardened that they offer, right, as a part of their container factory, right, things of that nature. So there's so much to take advantage of there. And now with the direction coming from the top, I do see the department really leaning in and embracing it. So.
Trista, because you work more broadly than just DoD, you look at hybrid cloud for the federal sector. Are other civilian or non-DoD agencies asking you, or asking IBM, I should say more broadly, about, hey, what are you guys doing for them? Can you do it for us? Are you starting to have those conversations with civilians?
Yes, absolutely. So it's funny you referenced it as a hall pass. So yes, we are seeing very specific asks that include the modernization and sort of answering the mail around all of the security mandates. As well. So yes, we are being asked to come to the table with solutions, with people, right? So talent is a big part of the conversation, right? So looking at the workforce and how we can bring our services and our people that are skilled, that are already cloud skilled, right? That are cyber experts, right? So that we can sort of build this. I like to call it a single team a construct where we're able to really partner together and do some co-creation and really move the needle that much faster.
Part of the reason we're having this broader conversation, I think we started very specifically with containerization, DevSecOps, but really if you take a bigger step out, what DoD's trying to do here is push more for innovation, push more for transformation. And I think they like to talk about near-peer competition, whether it's Russia or China, but it's also not just that. There's more to it than just the near-peer competition piece, but there's the need for that innovation bringing in from the private sector. Why or how can DoD kind of get there more quickly, whether it's through DevSecOps and containerization or any other approach?
So I guess one thing to point out, we've had a fair bit of success working with lots of clients in this way, is when you talk about taking advantage of the hybrid cloud landscape, in particular DevSecOps, you really need a robust delivery model to ensure that you're advancing transformation as quickly as you can. And so, what we actually use at IBM is something called the IBM Garage. The Garage model is grounded in best practices, using design thinking, using Agile for delivery, using DevSecOps to really fuel it. And it's underpinned by 3 major phases. The first one is around co-creation. The next one is around co-execution. And the third one is around cooperation. All of that is underpinned by collaborating very closely with our clients to ensure that the user's perspective is brought to the forefront of the conversation. So when we start talking about co-creation, we're leveraging design thinking to really get to those user stories, to make sure that we understand the problem set through the eyes of the user, right? And in doing so, we're able to design a solution that's going to make sense to the end user, that's really going to help solve the problem that person's having, right, at the end of the day. In co-execute, we're then taking that design and we're spinning up a series of minimally viable products using Agile. And in that way, we're testing the hypotheses that we put forth as a part of our solution design in the previous phase. And then finally, in cooperate, we are assessing the impact of those MVPs, and we're pivoting away from the ones that didn't have an impact, and then certainly emphasizing the ones that did and scaling that forward. The goal here is, and I think this is critical as we move forward and working with our clients in the department in particular, is that collaboration piece, right? So the ability to make sure that we're all standing there shoulder to shoulder, understanding the problem through the eyes of the user, so we can get to the best resolution, right? And that we're working quickly through this process using a method like Garage to enable capabilities quickly, to test to see what's working and what's not, and to obviously then pivot towards what is and scale it out.
So then how do we tie Garage to hybrid cloud? So what we've done within IBM and what we do with our clients, right, is we explicitly tie our Garage services to what we call our cloud journey framework. And that has 4 pieces to it, 4 steps along the journey, and that's advise, build, move, and manage. And so all the work that we're doing with our clients within the Defense Department as well as across the government is working with them, sort of meeting them where they are along the journey, and then bringing in that Garage services construct, creating that single team, right? Chunking the work into 6 to 8 week iterations, and then plowing through and really, whether it's on the advised piece of it, doing some sort of upfront assessment of the application portfolio, the infrastructure portfolio, co-creating the roadmap, the modernization roadmap, or whether it's if you're in the build piece of the journey, working together, co-creating, co-executing to build out that MVP that you talked about, right? That minimally viable product. And so doing that, being very deliberate about understanding where our clients are on the journey, and then using that Garage construct, building squads, right? These are teams of people. So whether it's the defense team with us as a partner, and building that squad, and then using that squad to really move the needle and help progress the department along the journey. So we've been very excited and seeing some great success with employing Garage.
The person who came up with co-creation, co-execution, and cooperation is probably very proud of themselves. That's good. I mean, like as a writer, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with advise, build, move, and manage. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, someone
and collaboration
understood,
too, right? Because now you're really
understood.
tied all together. Yeah.
One of the things as we're talking about this is, because DoD is going to live in this hybrid world for the foreseeable future, is these steps able to kind of go back and forth? Okay, well, this application's living on-premise, we can move it to a government-only cloud. Okay, we're going to move it back to on-prem for this reason, for security, or if it's going to the tactical edge, we need to move it to the tactical edge. Is that one of the benefits, that it's platform agnostic, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly that, right? I mean, the flexibility of the approach is key. The agnostic nature of it is key, because again, you just don't know where the mission's going to take you next, and you need to have that ability to pivot in order to meet that need.
As we've talked about the hybrid cloud piece, DoD is living in it today, every agency is. Are there some areas where you see them still have some challenges to live in this hybrid cloud world? We talked about the continuous ATO, security is always going to be a challenge, but are there other things that they're doing, maybe more process-oriented or technology-oriented, where they're still facing a bit of an uphill challenge to be more into this hybrid cloud world?
Sure, there's definitely an example of a DoD client where they are moving very quickly toward this hybrid cloud architecture, and they've decided that that they want to use commercially available cloud services as much as possible, but there are going to be cases, right, where some of the workloads just are not capable of being run in a commercial cloud, and so. So we are leaning in and doing things like leading technical planning sessions, deep dive sessions on particular technologies. So we talked a lot about containerization early on. So in the Red Hat OpenShift space, right, Red Hat in general, whether it's OpenShift or Ansible as enabling infrastructure as code, we are leading sessions so that we can really determine the best technologies to leverage to really be able to get the job done. And so that in itself is a challenge, right? Coming to that decision point of, is this the right set of tools and technologies to use? And then the other thing that I would say is, our approach to doing this is, we're really keen to just be that strategic advisor that no matter which technology stack the department ends up selecting, that we're there to provide those recommendations.
How much of the discussions you're having with them is, okay, this workload as it is today is not necessarily cloud ready, but if we modernize the workload, containerization, then it's going to could be ready, or a piece of it can be ready. Are they there with that conversation, or are they still just trying to figure out, okay, where can we move this workload? Where are they in that journey?
I think we're having those conversations. I think too that some of those conversations involve saying, well, the workload's fine where it is, right? Maybe it's sitting in an on-prem data center for a reason, and now the question is, how do we make sure we can continue to tap into the capabilities there, connect it back to all the other capabilities that it needs to be connected to in this hybrid cloud ecosystem, right? So then we start to have a conversation about the connectivity of those things, leveraging the goodness of the hosting environment where it sits today, right? So maybe something sits on the mainframe because it's heavy transaction processing and needs a certain level of security, right? And it has to tap into something that's sitting in, one of the CSPs, right? You can have that dynamic, right? And we can design a capability that allows for that to take place, right? True hybrid cloud fashion. So
I think that integration and that intersection is really key to making hybrid cloud work. Trista, did you get a sense that that's that old school middleware, right? The connecting systems is where agencies are kind of still struggling. Okay, how do I make sure my on-prem can connect with my cloud, share the data, and the end user can get what they need when they need it? Is that still a struggle for a lot of agencies? Do you get a sense?
Yeah, we do see that as a struggle, right? And that makes me think about this whole concept of integration and also the portability, right? So part of the benefit of hybrid cloud is making sure that we are designing and delivering these solutions, knowing that there may be this need to be able to move these workloads between, whether it's a private cloud or a commercially available cloud, whatever the case is, right? Having that flexibility to be able to run those workloads where it makes sense, when it makes sense. And so within the Defense Department, yes, a challenge. Across other government clients, absolutely a challenge.
I mean, the legacy technology, the on-prem, very few agencies have gotten totally out of on-prem. I think the only one I can think of is education and maybe SBA, but DoD is not going to get there anytime soon. Mike and Trista, we're just about out of time. Before I let you go, I'm going to make sure you leave the audience with something to think about, something that the big takeaway from our conversation today beyond call IBM. Let's leave them with as they move forward with hybrid cloud. What's the big consideration? What's the big takeaway from our conversation? Trista, do you want to start us off?
Sure. What I would leave you with is really for leaders to really look at focusing on ways to truly maximize the value of cloud. I think back to that early part of the conversation around what it takes to be successful with hybrid cloud. And I definitely believe that there are ways to leverage different ways of working, much more automation, use a managed services delivery model, right, as a real way to deliver new technology, and then optimize, right? Once you've deployed those technologies, really have a good way to focus in on optimization. And we look at optimization from two key points: cost and performance, right? Both really, really important. So I think that would be something I'd leave you with is just shifting from that old model of looking at cloud as just a quick, cheaper way to stand up and modernize infrastructure, but really looking at all the ways, all the different tools and approaches and technologies out there that help you maximize the value of cloud.
We've learned a lot over the last 10 or 12 years that the cloud is not all about just saving money. It's that optimization piece is key. Yeah. Mike, take us home and give us the last word.
Yeah, I'd just say, it's pretty evident that hybrid cloud is here to stay. And so how do you make sure that your organization is ready for that? How do you make sure that you're harnessing the power of it, right? You're doing that by creating enterprise capabilities that allow you to really tap into the power, the flexibility of the hybrid cloud, leveraging, again, centralized orchestration, management, all the things we talked about before. And I think most importantly, and this is what we're doing with our clients, as we're looking at building new capability, we're building it with hybrid cloud in mind, right? So we're building in capabilities to be able to leverage the hybrid cloud, like leveraging containers, et cetera. So making sure you're building for the future.
Exactly, because the future is going to be hybrid cloud. We know that.
Absolutely.
I've very much enjoyed our conversation. Unfortunately, we are out of time. So let me thank my guest. Mike Libutti is a Senior Partner and Vice President for Defense Industry Leader at IBM. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time.
Jason, thank you so much.
And Trista Colbert is a Senior Partner and Vice President for Hybrid Cloud Services for the federal sector, also at IBM. Trista, thank you too.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Jason Miller, and you're listening to Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to Tom in the studio for more from the DoD Cloud Exchange.